Guys, welcome to La Bóveda Yo. Today we are gold. So, welcome back to La Bóveda Podcast. This is the place where we unlock sound and soul of horror and games. I'm your host, as always, Joe. And today we're diving deep into the world of immersive sounds design with a very special guest that I just met. This guy right here is Steven Joseph. He's a talented composer and a sound designer whose unique audio landscapes have been recently shaping some truly eerie and atmospheric experiences in the indie horror game scene, but also on adventure and platformers. Steve, you have worked on titles like Staircase 55 and The In-Between. Welcome to La Bóveda Yo.
Thank you for having me, Joe. Happy to be here. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, this is something different. You're the first guy that works with sound directly. Like, we've had game devs before that that when you're a solo dev, they need to work on everything, right? So I just want to today is going to be different because today this is going to be focused on game design and music composing for games. So I'm pretty excited about it because what I love and what we like here in La Bóveda is basically survival horror as a genre and horror games. And as you know, there's no horror, there's no terror build up without sound. So, I just want to start from the beginning, man. It's you work on Staircase 55, as I mentioned, steampunk horror project. As I was surfing through the internet trying to find out stuff about it. I found it. I think it's great, and you contributed there. There's the sound that you also did for the ambience on the In-Between. There's for a Shilling Creature specifically, and we're gonna get into that later on. But you're experimented with found sound, and I want to touch those topics, separately lately. So you basically are using the world around us to build tension, emotions, and fear. So we're gonna explore this journey, the creative process, and how the tiniest sound, people, can change everything, not only on a horror game experience, but as a whole. So now, with that introduction, like everybody's like, Joe, why you make this huge introductions? And I'm like, cause you need to acknowledge stuff. So Steven, my man, welcome to La Bóveda Yo, and we are honored to have you here.
Thank you. It's my honor to be here as well.
Cool. So let's kick things off with your origin story. So what first inspired you to pursue music on sound design, and how did that journey lead you towards the horror genre at some point?
So going way back, I was 19. I was 19 at the time. I'm 37 now.
I'm 38, so we're there. Yeah.
Oh, hey.
We're there.
But I was 19 and I had just broken up with my girlfriend at the time. And a friend of mine told me he was making beats and introduced me to a program called FL Studio.
Oh, yeah.
And I was mesmerized. I was just like, dude, this looks like fun. I want to get into this. So I downloaded the demo that same day. And I remember just tinkering with a bunch of different sounds, just the stock sounds that FL Studio comes with. And my dad happened to walk by. I moved back home right after I broke up with my girlfriend. She and I were living back home just to get back on my but my dad walked by my room while I was working, and he goes, hey, what game sound? And I was like, oh, it's not a soundtrack, Dad. It's something I made. He goes, I think you found your calling, because that sounds like a game soundtrack to me. And thus began my journey into music composition. And then overall, my passion for sound in general has shaped this journey. I'm a sound aficionado, and I tell everyone that. My wife even knows the look on my face I give her when there's a new sound I have to capture. She knows the look on my face immediately, and she'll be like, okay, go ahead.
Just do it. Get it done with.
Yep. Bust out my field recorder. I go sample that noise real quick. And matter of fact, funny story, we were coming back to Vegas from our 1-year anniversary trip to Lompoc, California. And on the freeway, I was driving, and there was this weird whirring sound coming from the tires. It was just a really high-pitched whirring. And I looked at my wife, and I'm just like, I'm driving. I can't bust out my field recorder. So what she do? She takes her phone out and records the sound for me, and then sends it to me. That's
great. You married the right girl. That's what I always say.
Yes. Yep. So that having that kind of support has really helped me stay strong and focused on this journey, because as anyone in the industry knows, it is not easy to get into any sort of spotlight in this industry. So it's so saturated. But before I ramble on and on, you got my gist now of kind of where I started musically. Going back even further though, even when I was a young kid, I always loved music. You know, my dad writes novels. He's a fiction writer, and he likes to listen to film score while he's writing. So I used to borrow whatever soundtrack he wasn't using at the time, and I would just pop it in my CD player in my room, and I would just let my imagination wander. Music. I was 8 years old bumping the Jurassic Park soundtrack. You know what I mean?
It's so great because I can see him, like, if he's writing and hearing this, it's like the mood gives like inspiration. I can relate a lot. I can definitely relate with that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, man, but if I don't mention I'll explode because I want you to know this. Okay. FL Studio shaped me as a musician. I am a musician too.
Oh, really?
So I was into metal music and hardcore music, and I remember when I was introduced to FL Studio, I wanted to start at a band, and I bought my first guitar. I started doing riffs, and I was pretty good at it. I remember like my friends that were musicians for a while, they were like, "I wish I had your picking capabilities, bro. Like you pick so fucking fast." And I started doing a lot of thrash metal and stuff, and fast riffs. And, you know, incorporating other like sounds, you know, making it more like heavy and pretty and, you know, putting stuff in there. But I didn't have the drummer to play what was in my mind. So I started using FL Studio to combine that. And that, it took off. Like I made a band, it became reality. I started helping my other friends. Then my brother started learning drumming, and it got so far that we traveled. I'm from Puerto Rico. I grew up between New York and Puerto Rico. And bro, Puerto Rico music scene is super rich. We have so much talent in there. It doesn't have anything to envy to the New York scene without taking anything, you know. The LA music, especially hardcore and metal scene, it's like super rich. We have so much good bands. And it was super. So if I didn't mention that, it's so good that you started with FL Studio because I can relate. And now, like, look at this. You know, it's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Not very often when I mention FL Studio and somebody else chimes in with, "Oh, hey, I've used that program before."
Yep, that's it.
You know, usually I get a sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but usually I get a sideways glance and a use what.
It's like I use FL Studio, and they'd be like, "What's that?" Yeah, it's old school. Exactly. It's old school. I remember about it. It was like, it was beautiful because you could do like anything, and you know why I found it amusing? Because I'm gonna go a little bit more to the maybe behind FL Studio, but there was something called the MTV Music Generator. It was in the PlayStation 1, and it's the same layout. So but it was just given sounds. You can do stuff with it, and you know, and I enjoyed it. So when I see the platform, you open the software, it was pretty familiar with. Yeah, it was pretty similar. I was like, but wait a minute, can I create sounds now? It's like, yeah, you can create sounds on this one. I was like, oh, this is better. This is like, what am I gonna do with this? And I started playing with it. It was good. So that's interesting. That's something that I wasn't expecting to find here today.
Very, yeah.
That's good.
Awesome. So do you still play?
So I create one of the things that I have. I don't know if you see down there. There's like a Patreon thing. That's for the community from La Bóveda. And everything related gaming. I do like different podcasts. We have La Autopsia, which we do like analysis, like psychological analysis of video games. Also, we have Neuropicante, which is like Neurospicy, basically. And it's me and my psychologist friend and the most crazy friend that I have. He happens to work in the adult film industry for a while, and he's also a comedian, so he brings in that spice. And this is a very fluent dynamic. We just talk about current topics and stuff. And you know, I started creating all these things like maybe the middle last year. Before that, I was only just streaming. And one of the things that people notice is like, yo, you have music, like good music, like heavy metal and hardcore stuff on your channel, and you never complain about getting your channel taken down because of the copyright. And I'm like, because that's my music. And they were like, oh, that's your music? I'm like, yeah, but how do you do it? And I'm like, well, some of them I record stuff. Some of them I record my vocals. But now we have AI. And if you know about music, you can ask AI generators to generate stuff for you. And I know that's not the norm, but I'm a firm believer if there's software, there's technology out there, why not use it? I mean, if it serves you the purpose and saves you time, I'll do it. So I started combining like different stuffs, like all together. And one of the guys listened to it and said, you should put this on the Patreon. And I'm like, okay. So that's one of the things that I do. I create music and, I play with sounds. That's one of the perks of the Patreon. So you can say that I'm still making music. I would love to play with my band, but unfortunately, like the drummer is in LA, the other one lives in Puerto Rico. I'm like here in the Midwest. So it's like, it's not possible for me anymore. And then I tried to play, like make new bands around here in the States, and it's not the same, man. I'm not making it with my boys, so it's not fun anymore. So I just decided to make it myself. I don't know if that answers your question, but basically you can say
It does.
I don't play live anymore. I wish. We still do like a reunion show every now and then. The band's called Sentence to Fight. So I know people's gotta be watching. It's like, what's the band? What's Sentence to Fight. So it's a hardcore band. So aside from gaming and design, are you a musician as well?
Yes, you can say that. I do play guitar and but unfortunately in my current setup I don't have the space for a full drum set, so I have to make do with programming them in FL Studio.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But I did used to play a full drum set. It was years ago, but unfortunately I had to sell my kit in order to pay rent one month, and kind of regretted it ever since. But it was one of those times, desperate calls, or desperate times, rather.
Desperate measures, man. So I understand.
Yep.
So, Steven, can you explain to the people in La Bóveda what is found sound? I'm going to give you my take on it, but I want the take of an expert. I know for a fact that, when I've tried to explain these to the guys in our community, it's like found sound for me refers to using like non-traditional or environment sounds, right? I love to talk to them about how it evolved from when survival horror as a genre started. Stuff like, footsteps, creaking metal, dripping water, static, rustling on the walls, rustling leaves, the sound of the wind, and use that as music to create atmospheric elements to give something the environment you're looking for, maybe. And aside from that, me trying to explain to them more, it's for me, I have my boundaries. So it's, can you, you've recently started exploring found sound as a creative approach in your horror work, and what drew you to it specifically? How does it change the way that maybe you think about building fear or mood through audio?
So found sound actually started, it was a couple of years back.
Okay.
I used to be part of a group called Music Weeklies, where they would roll out a challenge for you every week, what to do musically. And this one particular one came out where you had to use a sample that you recorded yourself as part of the track. And me being extra, I decided to use all samples I recorded myself. So I had like a paper towel dispenser. I used sound of door handles locking or jiggling, and I just built the track with that. And that was kind of my epiphany, where I realized I'm not confined to using traditional instruments. I can use whatever I want to make something musically. And wasn't until I got into something called granular synthesis, which basically it's a process where that chops up any audio source into tiny bits called grains, and each grain can be pitched to be manipulated as you want to create some ethereal sound from any sound source you want. You can seize it of the microphone and something else, you know what I mean? But once I got into that and started creating these eerie soundscapes using just run-of-the-mill normal sounds, I built a soundscape recently with one of my cats meowing. You know what I mean? Goes from a nice cute meow to something horrifying.
That's great. That's good.
But
cats are special.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I'm a cat dad. I got 4 of them in my house,
Wow. You know,
and a dog.
there's a huge scene in a horror game genre as a whole, but especially like psychological horror, and it's the first Silent Hill, bro. There's a scene in like a locker room that you go in, and there's a meowing going on, and you need to find the way. And it literally it goes from what you described, from the sound of a cat to a very, very, very uncomfortable sound, and then you open a locker. People watching this are gonna remember what it is, and then you open the locker room, and then just this beautiful cat ever just jumps out. It's like meow. And it's like,
Yes.
then you drop it like and then there's it goes where it builds, and that's what I love about this genre, because it builds you up, and then it's like you use terror and sounds and you build that up, and then you let it go, and you build it again and you let it go, and then it's like you're talking about a topic and you're on and off, just to know that thing is still lingering there in your bag, but when you forget about it, it explodes in a horror scene. And it happens with this cat. It's like you're hearing the cat, this and that, and then at some point you go and to the room, but you hear like a squishing sound, like something just slashed the cat to pieces, and you're like, oh, you need to go to the other side. And it's like, I ain't going there.
Yep.
It's beautiful. And that's people watching this, my guys. That's the beauty of sound. That's why I like this, and that's what I believe. I firmly believe that you cannot build anything based on horror or anything, even adventure. Just imagine going to a game, let's say like one of my favorites. That's why it's up there. It's like a Souls type game, and those opening scenes, that intro, right? And you see like this vast world and everything so epic. You imagine that without music, the feeling's not gonna be the same. So it's there's beauty in this.
There is, and I my passion is creating immersive experiences for players to engage in. Where they walk, not they, but their character walks into a room, and just the sounds that emit from your speakers. Then what I mean. You're just like, should I be in this room? Yeah. I like creating that experience because it adds to the immersive of the game overall, and that's what I'm about. I love creating immersion for games, and I think sound is a very, very important factor in that. I don't think it's possible to do without it.
Yeah, no. So can you talk to us about your experience working on Staircase 55?
So, Staircase 55, I kind of stumbled on. I happened to see a post on X about it from the developer, and I reached out to him and I said, "Hey, I noticed there was no music in your gameplay footage. Are you in need of any music?" And he goes, "Actually, yeah. Can you do something for me?" So I wrote. There's a creature there. So it's the backtrack here. Staircase 55 is based on one of the SCPs. I love SCP lore. Big fan of it.
That's awesome.
But it's an endless staircase, and the further down you go, you can hear you crying or someone screaming. But eventually, you get to a point where you get down one flight of stairs, and there's a creature in the middle of the stairs waiting for you, and then you got to turn around and run back out because it's chasing you. So I wrote a track for when that creature's chasing you. Yeah. And I'll never forget when he implemented that track, and he wrote me. He goes, "Dude, I cannot believe how terrifying the music added."
It just added that thing where it's like, "Oh, it's coming! It's coming!" It's beautiful.
Yes,
it's beautiful.
So I started with I started subtle with just like a pulsing rhythm. Yeah. And then I have it ramp up to where the creature's right behind you, so there's a lot of high strings and just a grinding.
It's so uncomfortable.
Kind of grinding noise. Yes, for the kind that makes your hair stand on end. She's like, "Oh, is there behind me?"
I was talking with my kid the other day, and we were kind of talking about it, right? Because that's one of the for me, it's a hallmark of being chased in video games, right? And he was talking to me. It's like. It's like it goes from how far away he is to how close it is, but you can perceive it through sound, and that it's just great because it adds to the experience. And then I mentioned to him a couple of them. I mentioned to him every time the silence. Resident Evil for me is perfect because they create this silence in between the chaos of the sounds of the city, right? So there's like a upfront silence, but there's a lot going in the back. But when you hear stars, everything changes in Resident Evil 3.
Yes.
And you know you need to get the F out of there. So it's and then on top of that, there's a lot that comes into play with Nemesis scenes, but there's like the option menu pops out, and you can hear your heart pounding like poop, 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 poop. And then on top of that, you have the music from Nemesis, and he's moving slowly. So you put all that in a blender, bro, and that's the ultimate anxiety experience. You don't know what to do. So I was explaining to him as a kid, because he's only like 13 years old, so he's been exposed to a lot of this stuff from the get-go, from every game that he has played. But for us, that we were there when this was developing, we went from Super Mario on the SNES to, oh shit, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Should I just pop out? And then you're with the controller there, like So it was great. Now he learned to treasure this stuff, so he likes to play them like retro games. But I had the experience that I try to share. Like, this is what made me scared back then, and kids go like, psst.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, you don't know what you're talking about. This was horrendous back in the day. Now let's do an exercise. Put you in that situation. I'm gonna let you play this game, but I'm gonna turn the lights off. And they go like, oh no, I wouldn't do that. That's how we did it back in the day. And then we couldn't sleep. And you have to go to school next day thinking about, I wonder if I chose like just fight, what will happen? So it was. I think we got it pretty good. Steven, we talk about Staircase 55, but I'm curious to know about your work on the in between.
So the in between, that's been a fun one. So the dev originally reached out because he asked if I did any like sound effect work, because he goes, I have a composer already, but I need someone to help with sound effects. And I said, well, I can do that too. And he said there's a scene in the game where you have these like interdimensional creatures that come from the abyss, essentially. And he said, they hiss and they growl. And one of the sounds I used to make that was, I was actually at a cold at the time, and I was kind of wheezing, so I recorded myself wheezing, and I used that as part of the creature's snarl.
Well, it's great. I mean, because it adds its uncertainty to it. It's just it's brilliant.
Yes. So so the creature noises, and then just overall like environmental sound effects, chains, like wind ambience going through, stuff that is subtle but very effective. Also, one of the levels, you're in walking through organic matter, so squishy noises, and I used me stabbing lasagna with a fork as the bass sound.
Wow. That's creativity right there. That's great.
So that's what I love about sound design, is you could take anything, any source material, and transform it into the sounds you need, and I'm like a kid in a candy store. Every time I hear a new sound, and I put it into FL Studio or whatever, and I start throwing all my tools at it, try to manipulate that sound, turn it into something else, and it's like I'm 5 years old on Christmas morning. You know what I mean? I'm really excited.
You know what?
My wife always laughs.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just saying, my wife always laughs at it. She walks in, and I'm just like, I'm all giddy, sitting there like, babe, listen to this.
I think I don't know if somebody has told you this before, but I can tell by your smile and the look in your face that your work is pretty authentic, and you really enjoy what you're doing, and that makes me happy. That makes me fucking happy. So
yes, thank you. I'm glad it comes off as authentic, because as you can tell, when I start getting excited, I start talking very quickly. I have to reel it back in. But getting on this subject is one of those things where I'm really pumped up for it. I just like I said, I want to create immersive experiences. It's not about getting paid for my work or even having my name in the lights, which is cool. But I just like to be part of these cool projects. Yeah. I get to put my own sonic signature on them, and these devs work so hard to create these amazing worlds, and I get to add to that, and I'm pumped every time. There's never been a moment where a dev came to me and asked to work where I was just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's never been a moment like that. It's always yes, hell yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about like when composing Fear. How do you approach that contrast, because I know for a fact, because I'm an enthusiast of the genre, there's a contrast always between silence, tension, and noise. And usually when you have balance in something, you have a balance between 2 points. We like to call it here. We did a full Autopsia episode on sound design, and we were talking about specifically the survival horror genre, and we came up with these 3 things because it's the hallmark of it. You have silence, you have the tension buildup, but then you have noises, and you put all that together. So, with that base, I would like to know, how does this goes along with your philosophy behind using the audio to shape, I don't know, maybe an unease or an anticipation to something that it's going to be, to create that experience for the player?
So the first thing is usually developers will send me a testing version of the game just so I can get a feel for how it looks and everything. And generally, I'll have the character walk around certain rooms and be like, okay, this is what's going on in this room. So if I had, the sound of air vents going on with some creaking walls or whatever, layer that in with, just some eerie strings or even just some subtle vocals. It depends on the look of the game, was how I determine what sounds to use. If you're in a running factory, for example, you don't want it to be just silence because everything's running, so you want to have the cacophony of all the machinery running, but in such a way it creates tension. So usually, something like that, I would use a little bit of syncopated rhythms. So it's like the machine's running, but it's slightly off kilter, so that way you can't really get into that groove. It's just like, oh, that one off beat is really making me anxious here. But that's how it's used, where something as simple as that will pull you out of that sense of security and realize that, hey, something's really off in this place. I don't know how well that answers your question.
No, it is. It does because it's you just opened for me a Pandora's box, because it's, I can feel as a player, as a consumer, I can go in and play these games, and I can go, like, I recently played Signalis, which is fucking great. Like, the sound design, it's just great. So I went, do opening doors into these rooms, and there's like a cutoff of every section with the door sound, either if it's like pachoo or something, and then you go in and it completely changes the perception. And sometimes it's just something as simple as a piano going like, and you're like, okay, what's going on? And then you hear squishy sounds or a vent going on, but there's like the woo woo woo, woo woo woo, and you're like, well, it's not gonna pop off, and then you go and you notice that it's not. It's just a loop going on. So me, as part of the spectrum, I go and this is part we're doing La Bóveda, because we're trying to analyze the sound, because I need to analyze stuff. I need to know. I found beauty in game design, because as Capita would say, which is the guy that makes La Autopsia with me, my friend, games are art. It's not just a game anymore. There's so much love and dedication and hard work poured into it that it would be, for me, super disrespectful not to get at some point and said, okay, let's analyze this, appreciate how the game was made. And yes. it makes a lot of sense. Like your way, maybe not everybody gets that approach, but from your approach, I can completely understand, because I was like, when I was designing music, sometimes it will be about what I wanted to pour into it, like the message, and I wanted that message to get to people, feel the emotions that I was feeling when I was writing the lyrics, right? But sometimes it was just about, let's build a song because I want to be people ripping their heads off in the pit, and that's completely different. It's different. Yes. Now you want that to emanate hate, like you want people to release their tension from the week of hard work, and there's a lot of people going through financial struggle and all that stuff. How can I make people get that out to help them cope with all those feelings? And that was my kind of line of thought. I remember my bandmates were like, you're nuts, and I'm like, I'm not nuts. If you want to see the worst of people in that pit, you bring it out through music, and then you would see their happy faces when the song is over because they're relieved. So I could totally relate with what you're saying right now. It's great. I'm loving this. I came in here for silver and found gold, guys. This is a diamond right here.
Oh, thank you.
A lot of the horror is psychological, right? So when you're designing sound for horror, and that kind of emotional or subconscious responses that we get. So I think you kind of went over this with the last response, but I just want to confirm it is. Are you trying to trigger the listener, or do you just move with the flow of the design, maybe the boss or the mob that's going to come out? How do you approach that? Because I feel like at some point it could be like a natural thing that comes together into play, but there's other guys in La Bóveda from their community that think that it's done intentionally.
There is some intention to it, yes. Usually though, I'll touch base with the developer and what's the character feeling in this portion? What are we the player to expect coming around this bend? And then I use that info they give me to either do something subtle and just give you anxiety, or something that's ramping up and making you feel like something is right around and usually they give me creative freedom, but I like to touch base and make sure it fits that scene. You know what I mean? I don't want them to not match the visual, because that ruins the immersion. I know you know that.
Yeah.
So there is some purposeful intent to it. It depends on the, even down to the scene in general. Mostly it's just mood setting. I don't know, like an abandoned apartment building. It's falling apart. So they just want creepy noises and ambiance to set the scene. Where is something around the band? Is it just in the room? What am I doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, that it's just it boils down to each scene. And there's I like to just put my I don't know, screaming into the void into it kind of a thing. Like if that makes sense. I don't know. I'm sorry. Let me reel it back in. Okay.
It's okay, man. It's okay. We totally get it.
I start getting excited. I talk really fast, and then my mouth works faster than my brain can, and then
I know the feeling. Believe me, I know. It's good. It's good to have honey. If you're watching this, it's good to have my wife. Sometimes she's like, the peak is loose. You need to come back. Come back home. You're getting far. I'm like, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Before my wife left to her nail appointment, she's like, make sure you take deep breaths, go slow, don't ramble.
That man, don't worry. That part of it, it's good, because this is a good example that I was talking with the community, because I really want them to understand what I do. What we do here in La Bóveda, because I believe that without them, there's nothing. And I as part of the neurodivergent community, I just found out there's a lot of statistics out there that there's a lot of neurodivergent people in the creative process of movies and video games. A lot. And there was also a lot of them in the statistics of people that choose to take their lives. Some of them because they either were not diagnosed with it on time, they didn't get therapy, they didn't know how to handle stuff, and they made that decision that it's irreversible, unfortunately. So I wanted to create a space for neurodivergent people and for neurotypical people too. If you're neurospicy, you're in and out the spectrum, I'm cool with it. There's no a specific thing, but the main purpose was giving them like a safe haven, and I didn't know how to do it through content. So I just started in the streams. I stopped being one more streamer, which is like, without taking anything from anyone, but I stopped playing the games that were hot. Stop playing COD, stop playing this and that and games, and start playing what really made me happy. Because that's the way that I found, if I'm part of the neurodivergent community and I'm doing this and it makes me happy, there should be a lot of people out there that maybe think the same way. So as soon as I started La Casa del Survival Horror, which translates to the House of Survival Horror, it's a programming that I created where I'm just playing these retro games. I noticed that people started just flowing through the channel, and they were not flowing, they were staying. They were becoming part of the community, and they were like, oh, nobody's playing these games. And I'm like, I said, well, that's not true. There's a lot of people out there playing horror games. Yeah, but you're explaining everything as you play. And it is important for me, because even if I already knew this stuff, it makes me happy to know that there's other persons that can see the world the same way I do. And then it hit me, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This is how we create that safe haven. And then we went a little bit extra. I didn't know. I was just streaming. I wasn't even into like content creation and anything. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna share like my knowledge about it, because I consider myself a gaming historian. And I'm gonna share that knowledge. I'm gonna make shorts. I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna create a Discord where people can, if you become a member, you can go in there and share your thoughts, play with other people and talk about stuff. And I don't know, maybe stream your game. You like other people to watch you, but you're afraid to become a streamer. Just come in here and just, do it with the guys. And it created connections. And I feel so good of what we're doing. I always tell them, it's like, it's not about even, because people think it's like, most of them do this for the fame and getting famous and getting noticed and all that stuff. We don't care about that. We want people to come and be happy. And there has been instances that people are like, hey, Joe, my bad. I can't pay, the membership this month because, rent and everything's just piling up. And I said like, don't worry, just stay there, because I know my people. And if this is the way that you're getting out of making irreversible decisions, for me, it's good enough to have you there, and that's my pay. You know what I mean? So
yes,
it boiled down to, I'm trying to give people just a space to talk. And now it's evolving, because now I notice, because I tried first, like all these AAA games and I'm just like, oh, man, I found this guy, and this guy works in this game. Let me just write and see. And then, I would get some responses like, yeah, I'm busy, whatnot. But then you can take the response and maybe, translate a little bit more. It's like, well, I went to your page and you only have 100 followers, so I'm not interested. And I noticed that there were a lot of indie creators out there that were struggling maybe with the same thing. And I start talking with them too. And then I'm like, you know what? I can take the base of what we did with La Bóveda and turn this into, let's give a space to people like indie developers and people that are working themselves, that actually have love to what they're doing, on top of how much money we can make or anything, and just talk about how beautiful, the video game developing process is. And that's how all this started. So I don't know if that's like a good summary of how everything started for you, but I hope it is, because it's like I can't put it into. It's hard for me to put all this into words. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I totally get it.
It's because I see you smiling and you're there like, maybe I'm rambling like you said, but it's just, that's how I feel. That's what moves me, man. So
I agree. On that point, I will say, you know what? When I first started getting into music composition, I had the thought of being a famous studio musician. I've never wanted to perform live. I have severe social anxiety. I do not want to get on a stage. That's not me. But I was like, oh, I could become a name on all kinds of AAA projects. And over time, as I've grown and matured, I just realized, like, I just want to make friends, man, and make connections. And yeah, I got bills to pay, so it's nice to get. But I like that human connection. I just like meeting people. I love to hear their stories. I love to hear what inspired a game developer to make their game.
Yeah, that's my
thing. And for me, it's just about making those connections. Just like you said, that became the most important factor. Having that network of support. I'm big into mental health as well. For all the people watching or listening later, I am a recovering alcoholic. Actually, I'm 2 years sober. Just hit 2 years on April 1st this year. But I used to struggle immensely with fear, depression, anxiety. Turn to booze to alleviate those symptoms, and ultimately, I know now it was just making it worse. I was just exacerbating a festering issue. And it wasn't until I broke that cycle and I climbed out of that hole of depression that I realized how much I had hurt myself, thinking I was helping myself. So now I that's why I'm more about those connections, because I know I'm not now seeing other people who are just getting to get sober themselves, and I like to be there for them. I tell them, I see posts on X. if you ever want some wholesome content, Sober X is definitely the place to be. People talk
Sober
about the
X.
sobriety stories. Yes, go to the sober side of X.
You send me the link. I can definitely add it to the video on the description.
Funny story though, I did a voice acting role for a game called Alien Scumbags.
Okay.
I had no experience doing voiceovers at all, but the dev reached out and said he needed an American drill sergeant voice, and I was like, okay. So my friend Corey helped me out with that, and we were doing the volume check. I hit the red when we first started, and he had his headphones in. I remember I heard him through the booth go, "Ah, shit!" He said, "Too loud, too loud."
Can you give us an example of that, boys?
Not here. No, I can't do it on command. But if you look up Alien Scumbags and Drill Sergeant, I'm sure you'll find the video on YouTube somewhere. But yeah, I did a Drill Sergeant voice.
yeah. It's I can definitely see the Drill Sergeant voice. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
There's something in that tone.
Something in that tone, yeah.
Steven, having worked in action and platformer games before, right? How did that transition work into, horror? Did that impact your creative process or shift the way that you approach the sound design?
I think going into horror is definitely much more I don't know how to put it, creatively demanding.
Okay.
Not really demanding, but open, basically. So because when I'm working on action games or platformers, it's generally just traditional instruments I'm using, guitar, drums, string instruments, choir, whatever the dev needs. But when I started getting into more, I realized that I could take anything. For example, I have my noise corner here, I call it, just a bunch of random objects, one of them being a baking pan, and just taking like a knife and scraping the pan with it, you know what I mean? And just taking that scrape noise and turning that into, an eerie atmosphere.
I'm sure it is.
So transition to actually open up the door for me creatively, because I could think outside the box. What can I use other than this set of instruments to convey the mood I want to convey here? And most times some of the most random objects too. Sorry, one of the cats jumped up on the bed. One of the most random objects, and moving into horror is what broke my addiction to buying more sample libraries. Because for a long time, I would get stuck on a project and I would immediately go like, "Oh, well, I need to do it. That's what it is."
Yeah.
But once I moved into this, then I realized, oh, I don't need to buy anything. I just need to add. I just need to look at this sound, So my wife was very pleased that I finally broke that cycle, because we had many talks how much I was spending on sample library.
I can imagine. I can imagine, man. It's like, when you love something, it happened to me with video games. Like I wanna help out as much as I can in the industry. So I was like, every time I get a check, I would buy like 5, 6, 7 video games and just pile them up to play them live. And it got to a point like I'm like, you know what? You need to start getting picky with this, because it's like you're spending a lot. And I still do, though. Like, it's like when you compare a price with a huge AAA game, which I still buy them. There's like, there's IPs that I can just stop playing, but I just focus on what's a good game in my definition. What do I love? Okay, then I'm gonna stick with this, and I'm just gonna play that. So with that said, are there any particular horror composers maybe, or sound designers, or even a specific soundtrack that have influenced your approach or inspired you as you are growing in this space?
Jason Graves.
That's a great pick. That's awesome.
Yes.
That's
Dead Space.
Yep.
And recently I played through Still Wakes the Deep.
Oh, so good.
I enjoyed that. I really did.
So good.
It was just the whole helpless feeling, you walk out outside of the rig, and then you got the creatures behind you, and then the ocean below you, and that feeling of being trapped. I was just like, whoa, this is a good game.
The scene that you're in the capsule and the guy's pounding oh man, that made me feel so many things at the same time. So good.
Yes.
So good.
Yes, very good. But Jason Graves is one of my biggest inspirations. It's his approach to sound. I watched an interview he did about the music he did for the first Tomb Raider reboot. Remember, 2013 they it. But he had a custom-made drum kit, basically, that was just a whole bunch of junk parts thrown together, pieces of trash can lids, chunks of metal sheets, and he played that.
Yeah,
those were the drums he used for it, and seeing that really solidified my love of found sound, because he said in the interview that he was inspired to do it because he went out into the alleyway next to his apartment and started banging on the dumpster, and just that reverberating sound inspired him. Said, I could use this as a drum. So I take the same approach. I try to find something that's not musical, and turn it into something that is. I think I even made a shaker out of. I eat pistachios all the time, but I took the seeds and I put them into an empty coffee can.
You start shaking them, yeah.
Yes. He's definitely one of my missions. It's just his overall approach. I think we have very mindset when it comes to how to compose.
Okay.
First things first, you want to set the mood.
Yeah.
Sure. And then once you have the mood set, then you go in and you pick your instruments and all that. But his creative approach, I think, is really what did it for me. And it's like I said, it was that interview for Tomb Raider, and I was just like, wow, that's wild. But that was kind of my realization. I'm not confined to just using set sound. I don't want to pigeonhole myself into just a set sonic palette. My goal is to pioneer and try new things and explore new sonic territories.
I have a question, Steven. I have a question from a very young fan of the show. We call him the Kid, sure. And he's my son. So he wants to know, from a sound designer perspective, how are sounds like clashing swords or armor impacts created in games like Dark Souls or Elden Ring or even Monster Hunter? Is it all digital, or based on your knowledge, how would be your approach to create those?
If I was tasked with making swords or metal impacts, I would make my own. I mean, there's a way to make it digitally, but I'm a stickler for just using what I have. So what I would do is grab a couple kitchen knives and a few different takes, and then just lower the pitch so it sounds like they're longer.
Yeah.
Metal. I mean, just take a baking pan and hit it with a hammer. Make sure it's not one my wife needs, though.
He was just so into it when he made the question. He's like, "Oh yeah, I have a question." Like he was thinking about it for all the time. He's like, "I have a question."
Yes,
he's gonna be very happy about it. So I have a fun one for you. So what sound you've learned in real life that totally creep you out? Like, do you ever use it in one of your pieces? Like thinking like, "Oh yeah, this is definitely going in what I'm doing."
That would be the sound of an elevator pulley malfunctioning while I was in it.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, makes total fucking sense.
That was anxiety inducing, yes.
Oh my god. You actually were in an elevator that the pulley was malfunctioning, and you, as it was happening, you were thinking, oh, I'm definitely gonna use this. Oh my god, that's fucking awesome. That's dedication there. That's commitment.
Why is that? I was like, okay, it's just making a horrifying screeching noise. The elevator's still moving. I think we're good. It's not stalled. We're not falling. I think we're okay.
Steven. So I'm gonna just start with we're getting to the last stretch here, but this is something that it's becoming a tradition of La Bóveda podcast, and it's La Bóveda rapid fire questions. So just for fun, give me your top survival horror game of all time.
Top survival horror. I gotta go with the classic Resident Evil.
Yes, awesome. Do you have any top indie horror game that deserves more love?
Indie horror. Oh man, that's a tough one. There's a lot.
Yep.
Check out Staircase 55.
Staircase 55. Awesome.
Definitely. Definitely.
Now, just to put the cherry on the top, favorite horror movie of all time.
Ooh, that's a tough one too, because there's a lot of. And let's say Halloween,
Oof, yes.
another classic.
Michael Myers. It's all about
Another
that
classic.
sound. It's all
Yes.
about that sound.
Yes.
Hey, Steven, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for being here at La Bóveda podcast with us. It means a lot. And we really appreciate what you're doing, and all the people watching that may be also working music and sound design or even game dev. We appreciate what you guys do. I don't know if you do know this or not. You're helping a lot of people coping with a lot of BS from the day-to-day basis. Video games are more and more becoming part of like a strategy that our generation found to be successful against depression and against other mental health stuff. It keeps us busy, it keeps us happy, and we are able to live a bunch of stories and experience stuff without having to go through a zombie apocalypse and without going to war, and we can experience all this stuff through images and sound design. So thanks for being here, Steven. And guys
Thank you.
watching, if you haven't followed the channel down there, just hit the subscribe button on YouTube. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as at Yo Soy El X Joe, which is right here. You can also follow this guy right here on Third Echo Sounds. And of course, if you want to help out, there's a Patreon down there. Just go there, and there's different tiers. Just pick whatever fits you. So thanks again, and guys, we'll talk again later. This was La Bóveda. Thank you for being here.